Hello everyone and welcome back or welcome to the Introspective Diaries. I am Nana Hasia, and if you're new here, this channel is all about stepping into your God-given identity. It's about spirituality, faith, and embodying your highest selves. So today God put a message in me to put out there for specifically women who have been through a lot of trials and tribulations that have been unfair. A lot of women who have been put in situations that have been degrading. A lot of women who have been put in situations unjustly to dim their light, to get them to give up, to get them to give up their own power and to not recognize their own power, their own beauty, their own value. So how this message came to me was actually in the dream state. And I usually don't narrate these kind of things, but God really placed it on my heart too. So in this dream, what had happened was I have two nieces, right? And they were my two nieces were fighting, and one had accused the other of hurting her, right? And naturally, as an aunt, I got upset. I was very upset that my nieces were fighting and one of them had been hurt. And then I asked my mum to go and have a look and sort it out because it seemed like it was quite serious. And then the same report came again where my nieces were just fighting and some of them were getting hurt. And in the dream, I could physically feel myself getting upset, right? You know, a lot of emotions were coming up because these are people that I care about. And then I heard, what was relayed to me in the dream was there's a much larger picture, right? There's a bigger picture going on here. There's more to this situation than you can currently see. And then suddenly I just began to see a lot more people in this environment who are in this environment with me, right? There's a lot more people, some I recognize and some I couldn't recognize. And lo and behold, it was true. There was more to the situation than I had originally anticipated. So after this happened in the dream, I remember going into a field, an area where there was so much sunlight. There was so much light. And then what had happened was I saw three white birds because in front of me was green grass. There's a lot of grass on the floor. And I saw three white birds who were just playing around, but they were really close to each other, right? And then to my right, I saw two wolves, and one of them was a white wolf, right, with blue eyes, which is very interesting because in real life, in the 3D, white wolves don't actually have blue eyes. Okay, so we know we're in a supernatural kind of realm here, right? And then there was a brown wolf next to it, and they were both walking at the same pace. They were both walking in the same manner. They had the same gait, the same speed, and even the same size. What was different about them was just their size and eye color. And then when I saw these wolves, I saw the birds, kind of feeling a little bit scared because they're prey, right? And then when I saw the wolves, I was like, damn, like maybe I should go somewhere and protect myself just in case. So I walked up these stairs that were there. And then what had happened was that the wolves came around me, but they didn't harm me, right? It seemed like every kind of living being in this dream was in sync, right? From the birds who were the same size, same color, same proportion, standing next to each other, to the wolves, then to me, everyone was in sync together, right? And the message that I got from this dream was there are some of you who have been through very trying and testing times where you have been unfairly mistreated, where you've had people come at you for no good reason. I myself can make many, many videos about the things that I've been through, from stalking, from bullying to stalking to spiritual attacks to having people, friends, do witchcraft on me for years. And, witchcraft that's meant to like completely just, uproot you, if you know what I mean. Um, to having copycats, to so many things, and the list goes on and on and on, right? And I've had these things happen to me throughout my life. This is not about, 3 months ago kind of stuff, whatever. I mean, I'm talking about years, okay? And I'm of course a young person, an adult, but a young person. And when you go through some of these things, especially at a young age or at a time in your life where, in my mind, I should have just been enjoying my adolescence, my childhood. My childhood was pretty good, but I should have really just been enjoying so many aspects of my life that teenagers typically enjoy. What was happening instead was a lot of preparation, which came in a form of spiritual warfare. And it gets to a certain time in your life where, especially for, because what was being said to me, especially for the women who have really big missions, who are really spiritually inclined and have spiritual gifts, that they may be discovering is you're probably still dealing with a lot of the old energies that came from some of the things that you've been through. You're still probably carrying a lot of that weight that's holding you down. Okay. And because you've been through things that haven't made sense, right? Because you've probably lived a life full of many contradictions and paradoxes. You've probably, um, you've been the scapegoat. Okay, you've been the black sheep. You've been the person that people have first admired, then envied. You've been the person that was first overlooked, then came into the spotlight in one way, shape, or form. You've been the person that people have wanted to come close to, but for their own gain. And I'm not just talking about people your own age, right? I'm not just talking about, your friends. I'm talking about people who really and truly like have no place in your business, neighbors, strangers, okay? Colleagues, okay? I've had all that spiritual spying stuff happen to me. People try to attach themselves to me spiritually. And like I said, navigating this, especially as a young woman, is can be a very, very confusing experience if you're not connected to God, the Most High. You're not connected to your ancestors who've been guiding you and protecting you. You're not connected to your guardian angels. Then it can be a very, very distorting experience, right? But what was really echoed to me in this dream was there's some of you out there who have a lot of pain and hurt in your hearts, right? Rightfully so, I must add. There's a lot of pain and hurt in your heart, right? And this is something that may keep you thinking, um, it keeps you ruminating and thinking like, why me? Why did this happen? Like, how do I completely get myself out of this? And there's hurt in your heart, there's pain that you can't necessarily articulate very well because some of the things you've been through just don't make sense, right? And what God was telling me in this dream is there's a bigger picture. There's so much more that's connected to it, but this does not define you, right? You're meant to learn to integrate your light and shadow sides, hence the two wolves, right? You're here to transcend. You're here to be in harmony with nature and, the natural and the supernatural. You're here to really become a guide for others, right? You're not here to internalize the things that you've been through so much, which is why it comes a stage when you're in this journey where you're able to integrate so well when you allow yourself to, and you invite the Most High to aid you to do this, that everything that you've been through can almost just feel like, you know, a little clip of a movie, so to speak, or a little blip in your journey, right? Because even though some of the things that you've been through have passed, some of you are still living in the same energy or the energies that, you have moved past from, right? That, maybe things that happened at a earlier stage in life, right? Some of you are still living in those energies. And that is holding you back because you have a lot of hurt and pain in your heart. And the other side to this is some of you are meant to be used as vessels by the Most High to relay information to people, to relay visions to people, right? And there are some gifts, some spiritual gifts that, if you don't have a clear heart, a clear mind, won't manifest properly, which was what was being echoed to me, right? There's a bigger picture, and you have to learn to transcend that, the smallness, the conflict, the emotions that are hard to process, and you have to learn to alchemize and transcend that. And like I was saying, because there are some gifts that really thrive on you having a clear heart, on you being a clear vessel, right? Because let's say you had a cup that you really loved, right? It's a favorite cup, but it was dirty. It was a dirty cup, right? And I'm not using dirty in a degrading way here at all, but let's say it's a dirty cup. Nonetheless, you wouldn't put clean water in it, right? You wouldn't drink from it, right? And it's not because you're dirty or anything, but it's because emotions like unforgiveness, shame, being stuck, insecurity, all of those emotions create a lot of inner turmoil and conflict where for um, it's hard for your visions to come to fruition well, and it's hard for you to move on, right, from things. And I had to learn this myself, right, because there are times where I had gone through very difficult situations, and I had to transcend the negative emotions, or I actually don't know the negative emotion. I had to transcend the more complex emotions by alchemizing them, or else I would have stayed in that energy. And the worst thing is for time to have moved on, and for you to have stayed in the same energy of the past. Okay, this is why it's very, very important to claim those parts of yourselves that the enemy tried to take through different kinds of spiritual warfare, to claim those little bits of ourselves that are still stuck in those timelines, that are still stuck in those um, dimensions and times in your life that have happened. It's important for you to reclaim them, to take your power back from this. Okay, and this is so, so important. This isn't, it's so important that you understand that you have the ability and power to make yourself whole through the Most High, okay? You claim those parts of yourselves, you continuously speak life over yourself, and you continuously renounce all those old energies, right? Because for some of you, it's not about doing more kind of traditional healing, right? You've done the therapy, you've done the journaling, you've understood things at a very, very high level, but you're still existing in those energies, and you're still allowing your mind to ruminate, which is an indicator of you needing to clear those energies from you, right? You need to clearing those energies from you, and allowing what has happened, giving it a sacred place to rest. Okay, and like I said, through this journey, it's about the integration of both parts of ourselves, which is why I saw those two walls, right? The light and the darker sides. It's about that integration because they're in sync. Everything's in sync. It's about being in sync and rising above what has happened. Okay. Because like I said, it can be very easy to just constantly be at that level where you're like, woe is me, I've been through this. And yes, it's not fair. I will be the first to say that it's not fair. And you don't have to lift a finger, and the Most High will take care of these people for you. Your ancestors will take care of these people for you, okay? We don't even need to get into that, because we know the karma is real. Karma is definitely real, and what goes around definitely comes around, okay? So allow God to fight your battles. And this isn't a message of being passive, right? Because I'm the last person to say, turn the other cheek. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that, okay? I believe in forgiveness, because having all of those emotions in you eat you up. While you're busy harboring all these emotions in you, someone who's hurt you doesn't even remember that they've hurt you. They're living their lives, right? There's a lot that's unfair, but it's about allowing yourself to be clear as a vessel. It's about transmuting those energies and allowing God to fight your own battles for you. That's what I'm talking about, right? I'm not talking about, not taking action, even in 3D. Even in 3D, you've been offended, and let's say you have to go to court. You go to court. You have to do this. You do that, right? You do things the right way. But when I'm talking about that divine justice, leave that to God. Focus on clearing your heart. Focus on transcending what has happened to you, because you are much, much more larger than that. And everything serves a much larger process. So that's it for this video. Remember that if you take anything away, remember that once you do this work, a lot of things become subject to you. Okay? Things that are even sent your way that are meant to touch you won't touch you. Okay? So this is the power that you yield, and you have to start tapping into that and allowing yourself to step into the power. But first and foremost, you have to reclaim the parts of yourselves that are stuck in those timelines. And you also have to, what was I going to say? You also have to take your power back. So that's it for this video. If you would like to work with me in any capacity, feel free to book a session with me. My website is linked in the description box. Feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a lovely comment if you wish. And I will see you in the next video.